All right, we continue at the top of page 20. Alcoholics Anonymous, there is a solution. You may already have asked yourself why it is that all of us became so very ill from drinking. Doubtless you are curious to discover how and why, in the face of expert opinion to the contrary, we have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body. If you are an alcoholic who wants to get over it, you may already be asking, what do I have to do? It is the purpose of this book to answer such questions specifically. We shall tell you what we have done. Before going into a detailed discussion, it may be well to summarize some points as we see them. How many times people have said to us, I can take it or leave it alone, why can't he? Why don't you drink like a gentleman or quit? That fellow can't handle his liquor. Why don't you try beer and wine? Lay off the hard stuff. His willpower must be weak. He could stop if he wanted to. She's such a sweet girl. I should think he'd stop for her sake. The doctor told him that if he ever drank again, it would kill him. But there he is, all lit up again. Now, these are commonplace observations on drinkers, which we hear all the time. Back of them is a world of ignorance and misunderstanding. We see that these expressions refer to people whose reactions are very different from ours. Moderate drinkers have little trouble in giving up liquor entirely if they have good reason for it. They can take it or leave it alone. Then we have a certain type of hard drinker. He may have the habit badly enough to gradually impair him physically and mentally. It may cause him to die a few years before his time. If a sufficiently strong reason, ill health, falling in love, change of environment, or the warning of a doctor becomes operative, this man can also stop or moderate, although he may find it difficult and troublesome, and may even need medical attention. So on this page, right at the top there where it says, we have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body. So if that sounds like something you want to do, that next question there is, what do I have to do that? And that is the sole purpose of this book, is to answer our questions about alcoholism and to tell us examples of how people have recovered. I love that chapter with all of those guy versions, so I'd love to hear some of your girl versions. My favorite one was, I've been pregnant 3 times, and each time, I had an OBGYN, and she said, well, the Greeks used to drink wine with dinner, so 1 glass of wine in your pregnancy isn't bad. Just have a spritzer. So for me, that was a permission slip. I'm allowed to drink during pregnancy. I can have a 1 glass of wine spritzer a week for sure. And then, when you're done and you're done, I was like, I'm not breastfeeding because I need to drink. Like, I need to drink. There was nothing stopping me. And the old, oh, her tolerance is low. It's hitting her hard because she's been off the booze for 9 months during her pregnancy. My tolerance wasn't low. My illness was progressive during my pregnancy. And then it gets to talk about the moderate drinkers and the hard drinkers who can leave it alone for periods of time. I was never one of those people. Janet, you have your hand up.
Hi, good morning, Janet, alcoholic. So I highlighted we have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body. And for the longest time, it's like I never really understood what that meant until somebody took me through this book, and I actually opened my ears and I listened and I was willing to hear what the book was saying. And I always used to say when I was in the other fellowship, I'm like, how can people be recovered? Like, I'm still hopeless. I'm still, I'm still hopeless. I was in another fellowship and I was still hopeless, and even with double digits, I still felt hopeless. And it was because nobody introduced me to this solution, right? Nobody had introduced me to this book. I had seen the book. I have 7 of them in my house, right? At the time, I think I had like 4. And I would, but all of it was Greek. Like, I didn't understand any of the stuff that was being spoken in it. And it wasn't until somebody sat down with me and took me through it that I was actually open and honest and willing enough to listen to it and because I was so desperate, right? Like I was 3 months clean and sober, and my ex passed away, and I was like, holy f, like I could die too, right? And that's what really got me. That's what really threw me headlong into this. It's like I could die too. Like I was actually in my step 3 when he passed, and I was just like that gave me a whole. I just like it makes me sad that some people can't get this right, even though like I was there with him and stuff like that, and I was still trying to live in another fellowship and stuff like that. There was he wasn't it wasn't attractive to him, right? Like we say attraction rather than promotion. And he did come to meetings with me and stuff like that. And it's just like, but he never got to this, he never got here. Right. And yeah, when I was taking, around the time where I took my 3 months, he passed away. And yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much all I have to say. I just wanted to, talk about the whole recovered thing because I always thought it was just blasphemy for the longest time. So thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Dottie.
Hi, everybody. Dottie Alcoholic. So I find it funny on where they're having all the descriptions of why he can't do this and he can't do that and blah, blah, blah. That's all coming from the non-alcoholic, right? The moderate drinker per se. And, the first time I read that, I thought it was quite hilarious how, they were pointing all these fingers. And then I thought about it. We're like, well, why couldn't I? And this and that, because I wasn't quite getting it yet. But then, when they explained the hard drinker, the hard drinker drank just like I did, but the only difference was the hard drinker could stop and stay stopped without a program of recovery. Had I just stopped, I would probably be just a dry drunk, right? So I can identify so much with the hard drinker, except for I couldn't stop. I kept going, and there was no stopping me. And it was just what else did I have here? Um, you know, in my book it says, "What kind of drinker were you?" I was the hard drinker plus. I had, I went to rehab. I had to go to rehab. I wasn't strong enough to just walk into any church and say, "Hi, I'm Dottie. I'm an alcoholic." I had to go to rehab to learn how to admit I was an alcoholic. I had to go to rehab to go through a detox. And it was just so like here it says here for the hard drinker, they may need a detox, but you know what? They don't need a program of recovery, which talks about what do I have to do? And that's the action, the work that we have to do in this program with this book. So yeah, I'm the hard drinker plus, and I need the program of AA and its recovery and the steps. So that's all I have to share on that.
Thank you, Dottie. And one note, because a lot of I've heard a lot of debate as well, because there is a lot of moderate drinkers and hard drinkers in Alcoholics Anonymous that may not have that phenomenon of craving. But our requirement is that you want to stop drinking, not that you be a true alcoholic. So that's good to be noted as well. June.
Hey, ladies, I'm June. I'm an alcoholic. First time sharing in this meeting. I could relate with this. It was funny because I was telling my sponsor the other night that, I was born sober, and then I started treating my alcoholism with alcohol. I started in high school and drank to drank myself, to a blackout every time I drank. So, and then I was a dry drunk for many, many years up until like 98. And then I started really heavy using drugs and alcohol and drugs. And then I just blacked out, but I was a binge drinker. So when I drank on the weekends, I drank until I blacked out, no matter what. But there was times where I could leave it alone and walk away from it. And, whoever I went out with to dinner or something, I was like, okay, I'm just going to have, like, if we went out for steak or sushi or Chinese, I'll just have a glass of wine or a martini. It never ended up that way. It was always I was passed out drunk and, wherever I could end up at the end of the night after that person dropped me off. So, yeah, I can relate with a lot of this on this page because, waking up with a hangover the next day, I always said to myself, oh, I'm just going to stop and I'm not going to drink no more. I'd wait for the next week to recuperate, and then the next week I'm doing the same thing. But that's all I have to say. I'm doing alcoholic. Thank you.
Thank you, June. Connie. Hang on. Did we get it, Connie?
I think we got it.
There we go.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay, good morning. Good morning. My name's Connie. I'm an alcoholic. I just was underlining again things I learned in this program. I love it. It's a living program. It grows with me as I grow in age and life. But up where it says, we have recovered from a hopeless condition of the mind and body. Just before that, it's like I started asking, well, how do they fucking do it? How do you do this? How do you stop drinking and being sane? And what it says is, so I'm curious about how I'm starting to see some stuff in the doors before I even start to step or work with a sponsor. I'm just seeing some curiosity of like, God, it's like amazement. Like, God, how are they not white knuckling it and upset every day when I'm coming in these doors so upset and frustrated and then it gets to what do I have to do? And that's action, So I just love that this is an inviting book, and that it's of mind and body. It's not just about stopping drinking. It's not just about put the drink down, stop drinking, don't drink for a while, get back on the wagon, back off. It's about mind and body. So, and what do I have to do? And that means there's some action that that you're inviting me to take if I want this. And it's the purpose of this book to answer such questions specifically. That's why this book was written. It's not to say you have to do this, you have to do this. And we shall tell you what we have done. They're only sharing their experience to say, like, we're in astonishment and awe too. And I get to carry that message that I am still in astonishment and awe that I haven't drank and I'm figuring out life on life's terms and I'm at peace of mind and I get to carry that to others. And that awe is reminded to me when I read this book. So thanks for having this meeting. Good morning, everybody.
Thank you, Connie. Grace?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Grace. Good morning. There's so much on this page. When we began to read all the things that people would say to us or comment about our drinking, from when I was like 16 or something, my father had this thing about it's so important that you drink like a lady. Now he was an alcoholic, and he would teach me to drink. He would tell me to stay away from everything that had fruit or umbrellas in it. That was what was going to cause a problem. Just stick to scotch and water and you'd be fine. I think I was the only 16-year-old going to my prom that drank scotch and water. I mean, it was insane. And, of course, he would say, you don't want to be that person that can't handle their liquor. So for a while, I thought that was a really good thing that I could say I had a wooden leg, and oh boy, that was great. The other thing was as I progressed, my husband would say things like when I would say, I think I have a problem, he'd say, no, just, don't drink the hard stuff. Just go to beer or wine, it's the other stuff. Because there was no, understanding. And the other thing was when I got pregnant, that was very difficult at that point. And I'm in recovery a long time, and my children are 45 and 50. And when I got pregnant, it was not said to me not to drink. In my head, I knew that there would be something wrong with that. And I think I cut back from what I remember. But what I do remember specifically is drinking while I nursed. I had no clue that it was a problem. My mother came and stayed with me for the first week I was home. And she would, in the afternoon, make me a big Rob Roy, and I'd sit outside under a tree. And then she would tell me how very good beer was for nursing, that hops was absolutely essential for nursing mothers. And so I just thought it was all very normal and natural. And, I think to myself, I'm not sure what permanent effect this had on my children, we all have our issues, but I don't, I look at it and think, I wonder if any of them were what I caused by drinking while I was pregnant and I don't think I drank alcoholically at that time when I was pregnant, but I knew I couldn't go without anything.
Mhm.
So it was cut back quite a bit. But I did drink when I was nursing. I thought, well, I'm not pregnant anymore, and that's just fine, which is really good. I wish that I had had this book before I came into program. I knew nothing about what they're saying. I knew nothing about it, and it probably kept me out there much longer trying to figure it out for myself when I wasn't around anybody else that was in program. So, it's just too bad we always get introduced to these wonderful pieces of literature after we come in. I wish that I had known this before. But anyway, so long as I know it now, that's the important part. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Oh yeah, that drink like a lady. I would start out as like the proper lady at the beginning of the night, and by like 3 hours in, I was a trucker with a sailor's mouth. Oh, for sure. I'd be like, oh la 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 la, and then it's like, nah. Totally, totally different. And the sugary drinks, yeah, like for girls, it's like, yeah, stay away from the sugary drinks. It's the sugar that kills us, not the alcohol. That sugar is what's messing me up. And, oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, in the pregnancy, my husband would come home and he would smell like alcohol, and that would trigger the craving. Just smelling it on him, and I'd be like, good to go. Bev?
Hi, everybody. I'm Bev. I'm an alcoholic. I'm sorry I missed Friday, but I caught up and listened last night on YouTube, so I knew where we were. Just to go back to what a few others have said, we have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body. And then it goes on to say, what do we have to do? Well, I think, and Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, because you probably know, I think this is the third time already in the book that it is said it is the purpose of this book. I think this might be the third time. And they're telling us so adamantly, the book, it's right here, read the book, or not just read the book, but go through the book with someone. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out was, they're saying, why can't he lay off the hard stuff and all that? Well, right down here in the next to the last paragraph, back of them is a world of ignorance and misunderstanding. Of course, they don't understand us if they're not alcoholics. They have no idea that we are hardwired differently from other folks, and that's the whole thing right there. Some of them may mean well. Some of them are trying to be not meaning well. But anyway, and then as we go on, I think it was Dottie that was talking about the hard drinker. She was the hard drinker plus. Well, I'm the drinker in the next paragraph that's coming up. I'm the real alcoholic. Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Bev. Jenny, to close out this page. Oh, can't hear you, love. What? You gotta hit your button. There you go.
Okay, now I did it. Okay, thank you, Kim. Grace reminded me of something. I was also a Scotch and Water girl. And one of the things that people would say to me, men especially, was, wow, I've never seen a woman who could drink like you. And it was usually said with disdain, and I took it as a compliment. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to bring this up about the recovered. There used to be so much controversy about, are we recovered? Are we not recovered? Are we cured? It was just, we can sometimes go nuts about this thing. And what was said to me one time, because I was in the camp of, I'm not recovered, I'll always be an alcoholic. And then it was explained to me so clearly, and it made so much sense, was it's like when you get the flu and you recover from the flu. It doesn't mean you're never going to get the flu again. You've just recovered from that flu. And what do? You take vitamins and you don't hang around with people who have the flu. And then you probably won't get the flu again. So you come to AA, you go to meetings, and you don't hang around with drinkers, and you probably won't get back to drinking again. So that sort of made sense to me. I'm recovered, but I got to take my medicine. That's it. Thank you.
Exactly. And it's like we're never cured. We are never cured. We are always going to be pickled, but we can we can manage it. Alrighty, we're going to move on to the next page. Sorry to those who still have their hands up, but we hope to get you on the next page. Page 21. But what about the real alcoholic? He may start off as a moderate drinker. He may or may not become a continuous hard drinker. But at some stage of his drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink. Here is a fellow who has been puzzling you, especially in his lack of control. He does absurd, incredible, tragic things while drinking. He is a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He is seldom mildly intoxicated. He is always more or less insanely drunk. His disposition while drinking resembles his normal nature but little. He may be one of the finest fellows in the world, yet let him drink for a day, and he frequently becomes disgustingly, even dangerously antisocial. He has a positive genius for getting tight at exactly the wrong moment, particularly when some important decision must be made or engagement kept. He is often perfectly sensible and well-balanced concerning everything except liquor, but in that respect he is incredibly dishonest and selfish. He often possesses special abilities, skills, aptitudes, and has a promising career ahead of him. He uses his gifts to build up a bright outlook for his family and himself, and then pulls the structure down on his head by a senseless series of sprees. He is the fellow who goes to bed so intoxicated he ought to sleep the clock around. Yet early the next morning he searches madly for the bottle he misplaced the night before. If he can afford it, he may have liquor concealed all over his house, to be certain no one gets his entire supply away from him to throw down the waste pipe. As matters grow worse, he begins to use a combination of high-powered sedative and liquor to quiet his nerves, so he can go to work. Then comes the day when he simply cannot make it and gets drunk all over again. Perhaps he goes to a doctor who gives him morphine or some sedative with which to taper off. Then he begins to appear at hospitals and sanitariums. So when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I didn't think I was an alcoholic because I still had most of the things found in this chapter. I compared myself to the under the bridge hobo drunk. That's an alcoholic, not me. I still have a great house, a great car, a great job. So when I read this second half of that paragraph where it says perfectly sensible, well-balanced concerning everything except liquor, things started to click for me. And the following few sentences in that's me exactly, right? I said before I would start the routine where it'd be like wine, 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 other things, and then pills and sedatives to keep my round the clock going. So once I read that chapter or this paragraph, I went, oh, oops, that's me. Vanessa.
Oh, already. I'm Vanessa. I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, I heard a speaker just this weekend talking about knowing he was an alcoholic when he couldn't predict the outcome of one drink. And that's what the very first part that you read reminded me of. And I had written in there, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption. And then I wrote, and my actions, because the personality change that happened when I drank. It took a lot from me. Every friend I've ever had, and every family member, I really had lost a lot, and I thought it was me. I thought it was me as a person. So reading this and knowing this and learning this has done a lot for me. Knowing that it was alcoholism, it wasn't Vanessa. Thanks.
Thank you, Vanessa. Megan.
Hi, everybody. Megan, alcoholic. This page was like the ultimate eye-opener for me. And thank God, I didn't become a daily drinker at this point. I had sprees, but I identified with the true alcoholic, how once I take a drink, I can't stop. I completely identify with that in the beginning. And then this came up, And I was absolutely the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I would black out and I would absolutely be insanely drunk and be extremely aggressive, extremely nasty. But in all other matters, like I felt like I was one of the finest fellows in the world, But then you put a drink in me, and then I just become this totally different person that I would have never even imagined. And people had to tell me about it the next day. I didn't even know I got like that. I remember somebody referring it to like a blackout as unconsciously mobile, which was like the perfect description for it to me because I wasn't there, but my body and my mind was acting in its own way. And that was the alcohol that just took over completely. Um, Often perfectly sensible, well balanced, concerning, and everything except liquor. I pretty much felt like I had my wits about me, like for the most part. And then you put liquor in me, and then I have no control. Pull the structure down on his head by a senseless series of sprees. My God, those sprees, like so much could happen in that little bit of time. It was pretty unbelievable. I lost so many friends because of it. And this is where it stopped for me. That's where it stopped. He is a fellow who goes to bed so intoxicated he could sleep the clock around. I woke up the next day completely wasted still from the night before. And I didn't get my hangovers until like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's how like much I drank. And then once it starts with yet early the next morning, searches madly for the bottle. This was my future. This was what I was looking towards because everything else before that described me to a T. And then once I realized and had that like rude awakening that if I keep going the way that I'm going, this whole next paragraph on page 22 in the beginning, that's going to be me if I keep going with this. And that's going to be my future. And I honestly came to a point where I was just like, I don't want this future. I don't want this to happen to me. And thank God, and by the grace of God, he came into my life, and I really like listened to this book and did what they told me to do because that was scary for me. That's and one of my biggest fears is having a ton of time and then relapsing. Like I hear so many people, and there's so many people put in my life that have a ton of time, 20 something years, and then go out. And I'm just like, I don't ever want that to happen to me. And that's just, I keep filling my tank with this information. This is why anytime I have an opportunity to go through a big book study or to go through some work, that's where I'm at because I need to hear this over and over again because I always forget. And that's all I got. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Susan.
I must be unmuted. Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Alcoholic. Thanks for this meeting, Kim. Real alcoholic, that is me. And, I did pick up a drink after a long time of sobriety because I thought, that I could safely drink and manage my drinking. But it says he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink, or she. And I did. I mean, I would have that drink, and next thing you know, I was out seeking liquor. I was crazy. I'd be drinking dial, calling everybody, speaking, drunkenese, and and I was never mildly intoxicated. My last drink was the cops had me by one hand and pulling me out of my car, and I was drinking my drink with the other hand. So it's just the insanity. But as a sober person, I am capable of a lot. I mean, and endless possibilities. And I can speak English. I can, be a dignified lady. But oh my gosh, once you put a drink in me, I can't even comprehend the simplest of things. And the Jekyll and Hyde is definitely there for me. And I drove people away constantly. And, I would get up in the morning looking for a drink, even if I had to drink the one from the night before, which might not have been too sanitary. But I drank it because I needed that alcohol. I needed it like air. And I'd be bashing my head on the table going, I don't even know why I'm like this. I'm not really this drunk person. but I am a real alcoholic, and I'm grateful to be sober today. Thanks for this meeting, and thank you for this book. Oh.
Thank you, Susan. Oh yeah, when you're speaking drunkenese and then you just don't even apologize for it anymore, you're like, yeah, so whatever, deal with it. If you don't like it, beat it. That's when you really get to the good stages, when you're just like, that's just me. Annette.
Hi, my name's Annette, and I don't mean to laugh, but we do laugh at the strangest things, don't we? Now, my experience was I didn't go to a doctor for medicine to get off alcohol. For me, I had several surgeries before, but before I had the surgeries, my first drink at 15, I had an allergic reaction. And I only know that now from reading this. I didn't know it. And I didn't drink again, I don't think, till I was like 17. But still, there were other things like the marijuana, other things that we don't talk about in AA. But due to my alcoholic drinking and driving, made me end up having a car accident, would cause my physical problems. So I didn't drink for 10 years, but I was on pain medication. So I wasn't truly sober, but I wasn't craving alcohol because I had other things in me to let me function. And I didn't realize it. So then when my mom had passed away, the emotional, I believe I drank not only socially because people were partying, but emotionally when something wasn't right, I would drink to get out of that, to get the, like, nothing's wrong, like, and then be the party girl, like, it's good, you know? And so, and again, I wasn't honest with my doctor when he was giving me the pain medication that I had a drinking problem, because I didn't know I really had a drinking problem, you know? So I was uneducated, just like people who can put it down, they don't understand us because they haven't walked in those shoes. So again, and my doctor did overprescribe to a point where I can't even believe I'm still sitting here today. And once I did go to rehab, because of the combination of both, and my daughter pointing it out to me, Mom, all the medicine that doctor's giving to you, and now you're drinking on she never really saw me drink because I was divorced from her dad. And when she would go up there, that's when the party would start, working in the casinos and all that. You know what I mean? So it was very shocking for her to see this and say, Mom, I'm going to think you're asleep and you're going to be dead. So like my high school daughter educated me on I'm heading for real trouble. And that, like it's saying, that still wasn't enough. All the debacles and everything. So then I found myself like 3 months later, not on the pain medication and out having ginger ale, playing pool, and someone bringing up about my brother dying. And again, it's like, have that shot with me. I didn't have a shot. And that particular night, I got another DUI. No other incident, but it was just like, oh my God, how did this happen? Like, so then it made it very clear to me, the first drink is really the problem because I can't stay stopped, you know, and you know, I have a forgetter of the consequences and things I done. And like when I have that instability in my emotional, I'm not calling someone, you know, before the drinking, you know, to do that talking, you know, that drunk loud talking and explain myself out of it. It's like, this is like a yet for me, you know, I could end up in a sanitarium or a hospital, you know, just from not working the program. And they say you get off that jumping point because you're not happy drinking and you're not happy not drinking. So this is something that still could be waiting for me, that I don't want to go down that path again. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you. Amy.
Oh, let's see. Hi, I'm Amy. I'm an alcoholic. And I haven't said that in 3 years. It's my third meeting. I've got about a day clean and sober right now. And the only reason why I wanted to share is because I've been, you know, when I relapsed, my ego kept me from going back and telling anybody what had happened. And it's 3 years later. So I thought I should just share and come clean with a group of women and let you know that I appreciate all of your support here today. in particular. It was one of those God shots where an old friend in AA asked me to help him fill out the unemployment thing. And I was a little hungover and very irritated.
Hey,
and then-
Amy, I love you, and I
Yeah.
don't mean to cut you off, but this is a line-by-line book study, not a sharing meeting. So we can
Okay.
share after, but we're getting into some good stuff that I think will really help you on your journey.
Well, let me just say that the one thing I related to in the book was about the moderate drinking, because I'm a binge drinker. So I go in and out of drinking. Like, I can stop. So it really screws with my head, because I think that, you know, and I like what the last lady shared about the DUI, because I got one 2 years ago and I don't want another one. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks. And we're going to get into talking about some of the stuff with the mind next. So stay tuned. Right after Connie. You got to hit your button.
Yeah. How's that? Is that good? I'm getting quicker at this. Bam! That's what the gifts of the program are. My name's Connie. I'm an alcoholic. I'm learning technology. For me, again, you know, they gave me the invite. I'm asking for, you know, what do I have to do? And they're telling me, well, this is what we did. We wrote this book. And so now is where, for me, the book is giving me information. They're telling me, hey, there's moderate drinkers, there's hard drinkers, alcoholics. Emotionally, the word that linked me to this program in this book is the word stage. And after the real alcoholic, and none of that, I didn't see any of that, but I saw these words. But at some stage of his drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink. And it still gives me the chills, because it helped me to accept the fact that my drinking was fun. I had fun, and I had times, and I managed through life, and things were good. But now I was at this stage of my drinking that all that was going away, and it was getting scary, and I was going to start losing things. And those fears drove me to the doors of AA, not knowing if I was a moderate drinker, hard drinker, or an alcoholic. But that word stage helped me to realize, because it's like when you're a 7-year-old or a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and you get this stage of development, you lose your baby teeth, and they'll never grow up back again. You'll never have them again. Or we get to that stage of development, we have passed that childish stage, and now we're in puberty, or now we're in, you know, you never going back. And for me, I'm just thankful for the wording sometimes, that sometimes to us there's a word that can click, and it can say, oh. And that word for me, at some stage, for some reason the word stage, because it's like development, I knew that my drinking wasn't going to go back to where it was, and possibly this was where I was getting. And this is where they're still giving me information. They're not telling me what to do. They're just saying, hey, there's a solution. We got it. We wrote a book about it. Are you this? Are you this? And if you think that you came to this stage and you realize that you're not going to go back, hey, we got some information for you. So I just invite. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to do a big chunk of reading now, because it starts to talk about something, and I can't break it up properly, so I think it needs to be stuck together. So we're just going to read 2 pages. So here we go. And Amy, I think these 2 pages are going to have a lot of insight for you, my love. This is by no means a comprehensive picture of the true alcoholic, as our behaviors patterns vary, but this description should identify him roughly. Why does he behave like this? If hundreds of experiences have shown him that one drink means another debacle with all its attendant suffering and humiliation, why is it he takes that one drink? Why can't he stay on the water wagon? What has become of the common sense and willpower that he still sometimes displays with still other matters? Perhaps there will never be a full answer to these questions. Opinions vary considerably as to why the alcoholic reacts differently from normal people. We are not sure why, once a certain point is reached, little can be done for him. We cannot answer the riddle. We know that while the alcoholic keeps away from drink, as he may do for months or years, he reacts much like other men. We are equally positive that once he takes alcohol, whatever, into his system, something happens, both bodily and mentally, which makes it virtually impossible for him to stop. The experience of any alcoholic will abundantly confirm this. These observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. If you ask him why he started on that last bender, the chances are he will offer you any one of 100 alibis. Sometimes these excuses have a certain plausibility, but none of them really make sense in the light of the havoc an alcoholic's drinking bout creates. They sound like the philosophy of a man who, having a headache, beats himself on the head with a hammer so he can't feel the ache. If you draw this fallacious reasoning to the attention of an alcoholic, he will laugh it off, or become irritated and refuse to talk. Once in a while he may tell the truth, and the truth, strange to say, is that usually he has no more idea why he took that first drink than you have. Some drinkers have excuses with which they are satisfied part of the time, but in their hearts they really do not know why they do it. Once this malady has a real hold, they are baffled a lot. There is an obsession that somehow, someday, they will beat the game, but they often suspect they are down for the count. How true this is, few realize. In a vague way, their families and friends sense that these drinkers are abnormal, but everybody hopefully awaits the day when the sufferer will rouse himself from his lethargy and assert his power of will. The tragic truth is that if the man be a real alcoholic, the happy day may not arrive. He has lost control. At a certain point in the drinking of every alcoholic, he passes into a state where the most powerful desire to stop drinking is of absolutely no avail. This tragic situation has already arrived in practically every case long before it is suspected. The fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with the sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink. So those 2 pages describe the first symptom in alcoholism, which is called a lot of different things by a lot of different people. The obsession of the mind, the malady of the mind, the no defense over the first drink. That's all described in this first part. But it's, the obsession that it's going to be different this time. Or, I can stop, but I can't. I love that last paragraph where it's all in italics. And I think I've used this example before. It's like the woman who has a baby. Childbirth rips you to shreds. It hurts like hell. But yet, a few months later, your baby's beautiful and crying. Or you see a baby in passing and you're like, oh, babies are so cute. I think I want to have a baby. So then you get pregnant and then you're 38 weeks and you're like, holy shoot, I gotta have a baby and I'm going to rip it all apart and it's going to hurt. You forget it. It's just like with drinking. I cannot remember the humiliation of the last time when I was like, I swear I'm never going to do it again. And all of a sudden I'm doing it. And the reasons to drink, what reason is it? Oh, it's a great day. It's sunny. I think I'm going to go down and sit at the patio and have myself a Bellini. And then, 6 hours later, I'm topless on the bar and I'm 12 shots of tequila in, I don't remember, but it was a great reason at the time. It was a sunny day. It's a great reason to drink. Michelle, you have your hand up. You got it. There you go.
Yes, hi, I'm Michelle B. Out of Fort Wayne, originally from Flint. Grateful to be here. Grateful for you all. Welcome, Amy. Congratulations to anybody celebrating any clean time. But we are talking about the progression of alcoholism, describing how you was when, and looking back over my own alcoholic history, my using history, I was the moderate drinker. But see, it's something about, they talked about that malady, talking about that disease that you forget. One of the old timers told us, he said, if you don't remember your last drunk, he said, you're doomed to repeat it. So that was the thing that they pounded into us. You got to remember, because later on in the book, it talks about how we have to be badly mangled But why do we have to be badly mangled? Why can't I just get this thing? Why? And I know before I walk out the door what's supposed to happen. And the thing that they told me that stuck with me is that when you come in here and you sit down and you acquire you some clean time, if you relapse, when you go back out there, you're going to pick right back up where you left off. That's why I get another DUI. That's why, all of the money in the bank is gone. That's why I'm losing this and I'm losing that. Because they talked about those things called the yets. Oh, I ain't like them because, they ain't this and they ain't that. Oh, no. The yets is for everybody. That's the one thing about alcoholism. It does not discriminate. It will take everything from you. That's why they call it king alcohol. You can talk about using this and using that, but I know that if I take a drink today, I'm off to the races. And see, I'm the cross addicted alcoholic. So the last time that I relapsed off of a half a can of beer. I don't care what it is. When I use something, it's like, okay, that compulsion kick in. And it kick in full time. And it's hard for me to come out the street. I think the last time I might have counted how many days I stayed out there up, not sleeping, 8 days straight. Because I can't turn it off. Once that switch get flipped, that's why it's all that is written in the italics, because without help, it's too much for me. I need you. I need this book. I need this literature, the 164 pages. And I have to sit here and go line by line. I have to sit here and listen to what everybody's story is. And what I was told was get you a journal and start writing that stuff down. I got to remember, I got to ask questions. I got to do this thing. I'm a drowning man. This book says that we were snatched from an alcoholic death. We were snatched from the gates of death, and I have to remember that today. There's nothing that I can do today but come in here, sit down, get humble, listen to what you got to say. And just this little bit of time, it saves my life. Ain't that something? How I get a reprieve from drinking. And I'm going to say this real quick and I'm going to shut up. But I remember another old timer told me, he said, in the beginning when I was trying to figure this thing out, and the figuring out was just, don't do, we just read how it talks about, it's just a feeling. And I can't say no to that feeling. And it's an imaginary, but that emotional gripping thing that, nope, I can't go against the grain. I got to do this. Why? Nobody, I can't call nobody. No. But that old timer told me, he said, think about it like this. Well, I won't drink today, maybe tomorrow. He said, and when tomorrow comes, do the same thing. Oh, and you keep putting it off till tomorrow, and then by then you ain't done took a drink. But this program is wonderful because you hear some good stuff, and as long as God bless you to sit down and you can hear, but when you can't hear, like I said, write that stuff down so you can have something to go back and reflect on. But remember your own story, and that's what'll save you. I'll keep coming. Thanks for allowing me to share.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Yeah, we call that a moving target tomorrow, right? It's not good in goal setting. Goal setting, don't use the moving target. But in Alcoholics Anonymous, we like the moving target. I'm going to stay sober today. I can drink tomorrow. And then tomorrow keeps moving. Dottie.
Dottie Alcoholic. Michelle, all I can say is amen. Yeah, you were just an amazing speaker right then there. When we read page 22, I have written in my book that was the humiliation. And on page 23 starts the obsession, right? And, on the one side I have, and it's kind of like, Michelle was saying, first she said to remember your last drunk. Well, my last drunk going into rehab, I had 9 double Jack and diets, and I was singing and dancing going in. So my last drunk was a good one, but the night before, not so good. And I could remember that also. And I don't remember why I remember that, but I just know it wasn't as good as the day I was walking into rehab. But, I'm like that person where it's shared about, you have a headache and you're hitting yourself in the head with a hammer. If I burn myself on the stove, or when I used to smoke cigarettes and I burn myself with a cigarette, I wouldn't do it again. But yet in alcohol, with my alcoholism, I would drink. It started out as a great time. I think Connie said that. My drinking started as fun, and we had great times, and I was the all big entertainer. And then it became not so fun, and it became now a necessity. And and that's me. If I burn myself on the stove, I'm not gonna put my hand back on that stove because it hurt. But then again, as an alcoholic, I kept picking up that drink and thinking the outcome the next day would be the same, would be better. And no, it never got worse, but that's the insanity. I kept doing it over and over and over again to see if I can come up with the solution of why I'm still drunk after drinking 5 liters of whatever it was I was drinking. And then on page 24, I have marked down there, this is where some of the solutions are starting to come in. And I had to number, my sponsor had me number 1 to 6 of not the solutions. I'm sorry, not the solutions, right? So in the one paragraph, which was my first word, was a desire. A desire, that's not a solution. That's, I want to continue to drink. And in the italics, right? Willpower. That's another non-solution. My will is what got me here. My will is what keeps me drinking if I was not in Alcoholics Anonymous. And then in the next paragraph, it has consequences, and I'll just list those 3 for now. Had I continued to drink, I'm one of those not yet type people. I didn't lose the things some people have lost, but had I continued to drink and continued to go on the path I was going to, I'd have those consequences of a DUI, and lose the house or lose this and that and everything else. It was bad enough I woke up one morning with two reckless driving tickets and not a DUI. So how I pulled that off, I don't know. But had I continued to drink, the DUI probably would have been the next on my list. So yeah, that's all I have to share. And those of you who are new to this, within the first 30 days or first 90 days, and you're not understanding some of the stuff you're hearing, just sit and listen. And once you're with your sponsor, it'll all start making a whole lot of sense. And that's all I have. Again, Michelle, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa or Megan.
Hi, Megan, alcoholic. Oh, thank you so much. And all those questions from where you first, why does he behave like this? And hundreds of experience shown him, all those questions, not only were other people asking me these questions, I was asking myself all these questions. I still did not know. Most likely he didn't have any idea more than you did. He has no more idea why he took the first drink than you have. And that was it. I could not answer any of those questions before I came into this program because I had no idea what the hell was wrong with me. And I used plenty of excuses to try and dilute that. But I honestly, in my heart, had no idea why I did it. And once this malady, I have malady circled and I have next to it condition that centers in the mind. And that's, where the obsession comes in. It's like somehow I'll drink like normal people, obsession of the mind that people talk about all the time. Drinkers are abnormal. The tragic truth is that if man be the real alcoholic, that won't arrive. He has lost all control. And then I have next to that, no human power can relieve our alcoholism. We lost the power to drink, so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring our consciousness with severe force to memory. And I have memory circled. And in our meeting, this one guy always shares that we have a built-in forgetter. And that was a perfect description of that too. And I know with Tony at the Big Book meetings, he always says, remember, you can't remember, that was like a perfect line for it. And we are without defense against the first drink. And this is why our higher power is so important, because he's the only one that's going to save me. There's no human power, no amount of knowledge, like nothing but my higher power. And, and this just, it answers all those questions that it was asking in the beginning. And I love this because it just, it's just so much knowledge, but at the same time, it's like, we have to live it at the same time too. So thank you so much for letting me share.
Thank you. Whoops, I muted myself. Thank you so much. Yes, those boys, they can't remember. I can guarantee you that, and I can testimonial that. Those two boys do not remember anything. Marianne.
Hi, I'm Marianne, alcoholic. I really am identifying a lot with this progression discussion. And it's so insidious how that progression happens, one dysfunctional behavior after another. For me, I was a sick person getting sicker, and that was my progression. And I was dealing with a son, an older teenager who was going downhill with drugs and alcohol at the time. So the more he dysfunctioned, the more I drank, because I had no coping skills left anymore. And it was his rehab trip that brought all mine out. And I was so ashamed. I mean, I think some of that behavior of denial is shame. And I just didn't want to admit to it. I had that crazy idea that somehow in the future things would work out for me, but I had no clue why. So anyway, this program, through my son's program, nailed me. And I am forever grateful. Thanks. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you so much. And the other Marianne.
Hi, friends. I'm an alcoholic. My name's Marianne. Nice to see you. I know. When I read the line, that I had no more idea why I took the first drink than you have. I tried to get help from non-alcoholics, even a few doctors. That when I said that, they said, "Well, you should find out why. You should you should figure that out." And then when I read this page with somebody that says the answer to why, don't try to find out the answer to why. It doesn't matter. And when I read that, you know what? I have no idea. And I thought, oh my God, I've got to know the answer. And then you people said to me, oh yeah, well, because you're an alkie, that's why. But hey, you know what? That's your failed solution to life. But we have a better solution for you. So keep reading on. And it just is so much comfort in this whole chapter that every time I think I'm unique, this book tells me I'm not. And I'm in the right place. And I'm so thankful for this meeting. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for bringing up that point, because especially I've had sponsees who were academically based, and I myself am academic, and it's like trying to solve the riddle, right? It's like there's just can't. Just the reason, the answer to the riddle is that you're alcoholic, and keep reading the book. Joanne, finish us off.
Hi, I'm Joanne. I'm an alcoholic addict, and I know why I took my first drink, because I was uncomfortable with life, with what was going on. I was 11 years old. I found the booze. I drank it. It clicked. As soon as the alcohol hit my system, it clicked, and I felt different, and I didn't care. And then I proceeded to turn my life and my will over the care of booze and drugs wherever I could find them. And then eventually, I don't think I was an alcoholic when I did that, but eventually over time, I became addicted to alcohol and drugs, that I crossed a physical line and then I needed it. And then developed the addict's mind and alcoholic mind that, I just need more. And there was nothing inside of me that was more powerful than that. And that's where the spiritual bankruptcy is. And this is why this program is a solution. I wanted to share a moment where I really felt that there was no amount of mental understanding that would change my condition. There was an old timer that talked about being on the street, needing a drink, pleading with bar owner, please give me some booze. I really need it. And I could understand that panic. And then finally the bartender, threw him a bottle and said, here, get out of here. And the old timer said, and at that moment, I felt relief and I knew everything was going to be okay. And I hadn't even opened the cap yet. And that's when I heard that, I completely related that it's just been the answer to everything. But now I have a program that teaches me that I need a power greater than myself to keep me away from the trigger of physical addiction and the support that I need for mental and spiritual development to keep my higher power bigger than alcohol. Because sometimes people drink it's because they want to be drunk more than they want to be sober. And for today, I make the choice that I want to be sober. And that's it. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much, Joanne. Alrighty, ladies, that concludes today.